Welcome back to another episode of Mostly True, presented by New Spark Entertainment. This is a podcast where we talk about music history because we both love music, but we talk about it in a way including all the tea and dirty details from these people's lives.
I think it's the only way.
It's the only way to do it. It's the only way. So also we talk about musical theater because we love musical theater and we're both musical theater performers and composers, and we love to explore how history. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it terrible.
No, just keep going.
Mitch gave me the intro today and it made me nervous. Okay, we also talk about how music history has influenced our very own art form, musical theater, that we love. And today we are talking about baguettes and croissants. We're talking about the French.
Exactly.
And what they were up to during the Baroque period. If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it.
Is this going to be in every episode?
Yes.
Anytime we're talking about the Baroque, Laney is going to be making the same.
We have to honor Dr. Bridges, our music theory teacher in college.
Oh, theory. That's right. He wasn't history.
Well, and music history. He taught.
I guess he did. He too. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I guess we should also introduce ourselves. I'm Mitch Beard.
I'm Laney Gold.
And we are going to be your hosts through today's episode.
Oui.
Enter theme song.
Welcome to Mostly True. It's like a podcast.
All right. So before we dive into today, should we do a little recap?
We shall.
I think we shall for all of our listener. So our music history podcast has been working through all the predominant eras in Western music. So far, we've talked through Renaissance, Middle Ages. Well, I guess it would be the other way around, Middle Ages and then the Renaissance. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about Vivaldi last week and the rise of instrumental music. We talked about his concertos. He wrote 500 concertos. And
500?
Yeah, like over. Yeah,
that's insane.
500 concertos, like a bunch of opera. That man was kind of crazy. So, yeah, there's
and
a lot of
about how he was canceled, right?
Yeah, he was canceled, low key.
There's nothing new under the sun.
No. And we also, I think it's also funny because even when we're talking about these Baroque and classical composers, they're always like struggling to get their work produced. So it's like nothing's changed. It's like these are some of the most famous, influential composers in history, and it's always like there's always someone. Like that was one of the things we were talking about with Vivaldi. By the
good
time
to know we're not the only ones.
Yeah. So, so there's a lot of composers that aren't necessarily as big as, Vivaldi and Handel and Bach, but some of them have some pretty juicy stories. So I want to call this, I don't know what we're going to call it, like our shallow dive or our not so notable composers, where we get to go into some of like the meaty stuff with our not so heavy hitters.
Love it.
Yeah. So this week's shallow dive, we're going to talk about Barbara Strozzi. So Barbara was an Italian compostress. What is a female composer? I think they're just composers.
Composer. I'm pretty sure it's
So
composer.
she was a Italian composer, born 1619. I know today we're trying to stick to French, but I wanted to shout out our other lady composer. So Strozzi was kind of a badass and the most published composer of secular vocal music.
Wow. She was a pop star.
Yeah, for real.
So to speak. Our very own Aria.
Yes.
Barbariana Grande.
I was like, of the Grande. Of the
Grande variety.
Of the House of Grande.
Yes, indeed.
So one of the things that she really helped develop was the Italian cantata. So that was one of her big accomplishments or things that she gave to music. Anyone who's taken any sort of classical voice has probably had to do at one point some Italian cantata. I'm sure you did. So
I'm sure I did.
yeah,
But can
because
you
we had
remind
our
me what?
classical. Sorry,
Sorry.
I'm looking at my book. I just have to show you a picture of her. I don't know if we're gonna have to blur this out, but
Oh, so that's her nipple. Awesome.
would you like to describe what you see to all of our listeners?
Yeah. So I see a lovely composer. She's holding, I think, a cello, or what is that? A big, large violin. She's wearing a red skirt, and she has half of a shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
So
She's kind of clothed.
yeah, she's somewhat clothed, semi-clothed, if you will.
Yeah. So
So that's interesting.
so that's our girl Barbara. Yeah. So if her portrait says anything about her, she did not care what people thought. Let's talk her origin story. So,
Yeah.
like I said, she's another Italian composer, born in Venice, and the illegitimate child of a poet and a prostitute. So the prostitute part isn't like super. It's a little unsubstantiated, but for the sake of argument, that she was a badass, definitely true. I think, in that time, the high class prostitutes were called courtesans.
Ooh, high
And
class
so,
prostitutes. I didn't know that.
yeah, I guess so.
I guess that
So
makes sense. People would want to
yeah,
pay more for
so
the
yeah, for like a mistress or whatever. So I guess
sure,
that was
sure.
what a lot of historians believe her mom could have been. And there's also some debate as to whether or not she went into the family business, so to speak, while
Sure.
in
I
her
mean,
later years.
the portrait would maybe suggest so,
Yes,
but also it was the Renaissance, so you never know.
You never know.
Lots of naked people in art.
Yeah, for real. But we've also seen a lot of other female composer portraits, and none with quite so little coverage.
None featuring an areola.
But
yeah,
I
at
think
least.
something that's interesting is that her dad was part of this exclusive society called the Academy of the Unknowns.
Ooh, that sounds like Illuminati or something.
Very much. So it was a
Interesting.
society of like all the prominent artists, politicians, thinkers. They all would like get together and they would meet. And it was essentially all of the guys who ran Venice were a part of the society. But one of the benefits of Strozzi having her dad in the society is that she was able to perform for them. So at the time, these kinds of societies were like these big boys clubs, and it was her chance to, perform her music. And so by 18, she was already making a name for herself, partly because she was able to, go to the club, not like a club, but like the club and perform.
I mean, some of those classical hits are bangers.
They really
honestly.
are. You could get down with
Yeah. I love the TikToks of people doing hip hop to classical
music.
Concertos and whatnot.
I think that should be your next
It's my whole FYP.
But anyway, she had 4 kids. She never married. Some sources suggest that she may have followed in her mother's footsteps, like I said, and became a courtesan. But again, not proven. One thing that I really love about her is that she's just so independent, I think, especially a lot of the women at the time would publish under pseudonyms to try and get their music heard and performed. But she was very adamant about never publishing under any name but her own. So I thought that was something that was kind of cool too.
Nice, yeah. And I mean, that probably helps. She had all those people who were willing to back her financially, all the most important people in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
She probably felt like she didn't necessarily need to change her name to get any clout.
Yeah,
But
I mean, because she was so well connected through her dad.
and did she sing as well? Was she an opera singer?
Yeah, so she was primarily a singer, but she had more than 100 pieces of secular music performed across the region, so she was doing pretty well. Her work was in England, Austria, Germany, and of course Venice. So she was also known for being a very tenacious businesswoman.
Sounds like a badass.
So really does.
So, what else was
Yes.
going on in Europe in regards to opera? What about in the other places?
The other places of the world. So today is a little bit of a kind of a, I'm not going to call it comprehensive, but it's a little bit
A
more like,
conglomeration?
yeah, it's like a contextual what's happening and what are we learning in the opera world. We're specifically talking
Topping.
about we're
topping about.
we're talking about Italian opera, French opera, and German opera, which are kind of the three main opera styles that will come out of the Baroque and Classical era. And so we're just going to kind of break down a little bit what each of those are and what they mean for us.
Shall we start with Italian?
I think we should. I think that's a very good place to start.
A very good place to start.
And I knew that was the second I said it. So
You're
Italian
welcome.
opera is, I mean, it's the start of everything. Italian opera is really the first opera that we know of in terms of Western music. So it's definitely the best place to start when we're figuring out like what is different about each style.
I think most of the arias I had to do in school were Italian.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with Italian is it's a really easy language to sing. I feel like the rules for the language are pretty easy to understand and teach. Everything ends in a vowel, so it's very easy on the singers. So
Oh, that's so true.
yeah, so it's, there's not a lot of hard consonants that you really have to get through at the end of a note, You're like
Yeah.
trying to work through,
No
this.
R's.
Yeah, so it's a very good place for like singers to start, and it also is fitting that it was where the entire art form kind of began. So first thing I need to say is I thought it was so interesting when I was reading this, because you think opera is boring and long, and you would be correct. So
I mean, especially about the long.
especially about the long. So it's interesting because there's like this expectation when you go to watch a show or something. It's like, oh, it's gonna be like no one's gonna be talking. No one would be talking during a musical when you're watching a show. Like,
Of course
the
not.
audience isn't going to be talking. But like at the time, operas were not that at all. Like operas were like a party. Like you would get your friends together, you would all go. There would be ladies, Sally and her friends would be having tea. Some guys might be playing cards. A nobleman or lady probably had their dog in the box, so they'd be like barking. So people were talking, hanging out, and the opera was like the equivalent of putting on a record in the background.
Bringing your dog to the theater is crazy.
Yeah.
But
So
also, I love it, and I think we should bring it back.
I think we should. I do too. But so the writers, the composers at the time, especially with like the early opera, they would have known this. They would know that like when people are coming to the show, they aren't coming to watch the show the entire time. And so a lot of the writers knew that. And so they would keep their shows kind of longer. They would have maybe a few arias to draw people in where like the singer could like really be the star, but then the rest of it they would keep it easy to follow. They would use stories that a lot of people knew. They would use, we see a lot of Greek mythology stuff in especially a lot of the
Right.
early operas, because the people would have been aware of what the story was so that they didn't have to follow it too closely because they knew what would happen.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of like early opera that was kind of centered around being quote unquote boring because they didn't want to draw too much attention away from what people were there to do. They were there to hang out.
Interesting. Okay, so that makes me feel better about I don't go to the opera very often, but I have been to an opera, and when you're just sitting in your seat facing the stage and all there is to do is pay attention to the story, it can be a little tedious. And like
Yeah.
I love opera. I love singing opera. I'm not like an opera singer, but that kind of makes me feel better about that. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely operas that came out later that wouldn't have been the case. People wouldn't have been talking at the opera, and they're still
Mhm.
boring. But but as
Fair.
like at least for me, I'm like I can't sit through a whole thing.
Well, it's
But
also hard when you don't understand the words.
I think that's that's probably a
That
big
can
part of
add
it
to
too.
the boringness.
Um, so you're like, yeah, you're
Syllables.
reading like the subtitles on the side of the show, so you're like
Right.
going back and forth. But yeah, I thought that was something interesting when I was reading that, you know, I didn't necessarily clock uh as as much, I think, when I was first taking music history and stuff like that. So
Yeah, very interesting. I didn't know that.
okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what is happening in the actual structure of Italian opera. What makes Italian opera? What were the different types of Italian opera? And yeah, what makes them important? So opera got pretty big. Um, they, they started this new smaller thing, but grew pretty quickly into this big spectacle. Even just in Italy, there were some really important evolutions of the style. I guess I'd say Rome is the most commercial of the cities. The Roman
Mhm.
opera was very into the spectacle. So they were known for having these big choruses, scenic effects, grand palaces, literally naval battles on stage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Um,
Naval battles like ships?
yeah, like they would have these huge sets. I mean, it kind of reminds me, I mean, this is Rome. It's very throwback to Colosseum, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Like they may as well do these operas there and fill it up with water or something.
Yeah, so I think Rome being such an epicenter for Italy, um, I guess they really took opera and saw the commercial possibilities of what it could be as some form of entertainment. So,
Oh, nice. And so the opera buffa came out of Rome, right?
hmm yeah, so there's these two main things that let's talk about today. There's opera seria and opera buffa, buffa. Um, Not exactly serious and comedy opera. There's some key distinctions that we'll talk about. Um, but if you want to paint with a really broad brushstroke, that's kind
Mhm.
of what it breaks down to. So opera
Mhm.
buffa came again out of Rome. Some of the tragedy operas were very tragic, and so one of the ways that they saw they could kind of offset all of like the really dramatic opera was they would break up the acts with these little intermezzi, they would call them. And so the intermezzi would be these kind of little like short comedic musical breaks in between the acts of the main opera, and that birthed this new style. They saw people that really liked the little inner bits of like the funny or lighthearted stuff, and
Mhm.
so they decided, okay, well, people like this, what if we made whole shows of it? So we got opera buffa from Rome and big spectacle from Rome. So
Okay, so big spectacle was more of the buffa variety or the Seria variety or both?
I think it wasn't necessarily limited to either one. I would assume
Okay.
that I think the Seria probably had more of like the big stuff, but Opera Buffa also was a little bit more lighthearted, and I think they would have just as elaborate sets and things. So
Fun. So what else? Was there anything else happening with opera in Italy at the time? Or was it
yeah,
mostly out of Rome?
so Rome was big, but Venice, we've talked about a lot. There's also a lot of stuff coming out of Venice. It's kind of the birthplace of the original opera. That's, I think, we've talked about a lot of stuff coming out of Venice, but it continues to pioneer through the 17th and 18th century. First, really notable thing to happen in Venice is public access. This is in 1637, Venice opens the first public opera house. Before then, it was royalty or invite only. So this was like the first time that the only thing to get you into the theater was the purchase of a ticket.
Wow.
And that was like crazy unheard of. But I think that's kind of it's cool that they had the first anyone. All you have to do is buy a ticket and you can come see the opera.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so they never thought to like make money off of it before? Or did the royals pay them, do you think?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think there was money, but it was very closed off. It was, we're
Mhm.
producing an opera for ourselves and our friends, and we'll commission it and invite people from all over. Um, but it's not necessarily public. Like, not everyone can come see our show. We're just doing this for whoever we invite. So, in 1637 in Venice, that was the first public opera house. So,
That's cool.
yeah. So apart from Venice, the other place that's like, one of the big contributions that Venice gives us. But we also see some big things coming out of Naples with the development of the Neapolitan opera.
Ooh, what's that?
So it is closely linked to opera seria. In some ways, you could say like Neapolitan opera is opera seria, kind of like.
It's strawberry, chocolate, and pistachio flavored.
Yes, exactly.
Love that.
So it gave music a few things, most notably a really common aria style, the Dacapo aria. Have you probably sing a Dacapo aria?
Decop. It makes me think of like without your head, but I don't think that's correct.
Well,
Makes me think
it
of...
does mean from the head.
Oh, okay. Different.
So
I got the head part.
yeah, so da capo is from the head. So the way that da capo aria is structured, it's an ABA form. So you sing A, then you sing section B, then you go back to the beginning and you sing A again. So
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Neapolitan also gave us the fast, slow, fast Italian overture. So that's, another contribution. And they also gave us something that I don't know how like great of a contribution it was. But they did give us the castrati.
That is a very interesting topic. Um,
Would you like to talk about the castrati? Because they were a big
yes.
deal in opera.
Yes. So, for those who don't know, castrati were men who were castrated so that their voices would be higher and they would be able to hit crazy notes that female singers, because a lot of times females weren't invited into the choral settings of the church or even of the opera. And so the sopranos and altos would be these men who were often, um, they didn't have a lot of hair, they had larger hips, breasts, thighs, and they were tall, but they were kind of revered in their culture as like gods and heroes, and people loved them. And also, they were usually pretty arrogant, and a lot of them were huge stars. So
Yeah.
even some families would start castrating their sons just in the hopes that they would someday become a castrati star, which, yikes.
Yeah, it's
Tough for that kid.
yeah, and because also like they do it at like what 11 or 12, like pre puberty. So it's not like these kids are
Yeah.
really like, oh yeah, like they don't understand what they're doing.
They're not like, I know what I want to do with my life.
I know what I want to be when
No.
I grow up. Like
They're like, well, I guess I have one option now. So
yeah, oh
at the
gosh,
time, at least.
yeah. So
So yeah, that went on for about 300 years. There were castrati.
yeah, there were I don't know how many thousands of operations, and it was pretty risky too. So
Oh, really?
yeah, the
A lot of people
casualty rate
died.
was very high. It was I think there's not a lot of information, or it's hard to like track down um to
Wow.
know what's like the most accurate number, but
Sure.
based on a couple of the books, they were like it was pretty much a 50-50 operation. Like
50-50?
yeah, it was like a 50-50 chance that the kid would make it.
Wow. Definitely worth it to have a soprano in the family.
Yeah. I know, right?
And all the while they could have just had women singing, but
But no,
that's a crazy idea.
no, that would be of the
So,
devil.
of course, it'd be evil and crazy. So,
Yeah. So
instead we cut people's, etc., etc.
etc. I know, because it's so interesting too, because like it wasn't like it became a really big thing in opera, but it started really in the church, because they needed, they had these composers that were writing harder and harder music, and
Right.
the only sopranos and altos they had in the choirs were boys because women weren't allowed to sing in the choirs. And so as the
Sure.
music got harder, they were like, we need adults singing this because it's too hard for kids to sing. And
The higher the voice, the closer to Jesus.
so the only
As my mama always said.
the only solution they could come up with was like, well, what if we make a guy uh a not really
Right.
guy?
They're like, we couldn't possibly change this music. So
we couldn't
instead we're gonna
possibly let
perform.
women sing.
Yeah. Yeah, so instead we're gonna risk everyone's life and do operations.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a nice little tangent. But that was big in the Neapolitan opera scene. Lots of castrati in Naples.
Okay, so if I wanted to write an opera that was gonna qualify for an opera seria, what elements would I need to incorporate?
Yeah, so there's there's a lot to break it down, but kind of the big overarching things that we know, if we break down opera seria, we have a pretty standardized formula. So there are 3 acts. It's a 3-act libretti, and that libretti is almost always going to be based on a classical history or some sort of legend. It's also
Oh,
going
okay.
to include a lot of Dacapo aria and a few other different song styles.
Interesting. I'm wondering if there's anything in theater today that would technically be considered like an opera seria, like Les Mis or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some more, and opera seria is gonna be in Italian, because
Sure.
it's all it's all
So if I
Italian opera,
translated Les Mis into Italian, it might
and then
work.
maybe yeah. So that's it for Italian.
All
Should we
right, should
talk?
we talk about German?
I think we should talk about French first.
Yes, that's what it says in the notes, and that's what I meant to say.
So apart from
Uh,
baguettes and croissants, there's a big art
oui,
form,
oui.
oui, that
Cool.
sneaks its way into French opera. Any guesses?
Is it ballet, perhaps?
Perhaps it is.
At the ballet.
Exactly. So there's going to be a musical theater song for every style.
Yes, of course.
So so a ballet was a big thing that they added in terms of what they did with their opera style. Again, they were really big operas. They were spectacles. They were lots of design, big casts, and written in the French language.
Well, this is making me think of like the Phantom of the Opera because
Mm-hmm.
that's what they do. They are in operas with ballet.
Yeah. So that would be probably would have been a French opera. So different styles than Italian opera. We have a couple distinct styles in French. Two main forms developed: the grand opera, which was characterized by sung text, historical subjects, large scale, extensive use of chorus and ballet, and opera comique, which featured spoken dialogue and was generally simpler in musical style.
Again,
So,
in Phantom of the Opera
mm-hmm.
with the page boy,
Yeah.
right?
So I don't,
Aren't they talking?
I
I
am
might be
not
wrong.
familiar enough with Phantom of the Opera. You're probably right.
You're not familiar enough with Phantom of the Opera?
No, I'm not. But it is interesting because opera comique is, if it sounds just like a musical. I mean, there's spoken dialogue and
Right.
music. So,
Oh yeah, that too. All roads lead back to Phantom of the Opera.
all roads, yeah. So there's also one of the other things that the French did. They developed the French overture, which is different than the Italian overture. We talked Italian was fast, slow, fast. French overture was, it was slow and then it was fast.
Slow fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of common for
Mm-hmm.
musical theater overtures as well.
Yeah. So it has those two parts, and it became a very standardized form for opera overtures. And it was also adopted later by symphonies. Like a lot of symphony music also adopted the French overture style. So
I love overtures. I think musical theater needs to bring back overtures because they're dying away.
they are, but I also I think more what they need, the thing that I love most are like the dream ballets. I think the dream
Well,
ballets more than the overtures. Like,
and consider this. How about both?
why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? Well, it was interesting because working on my show, I was looking and listening to a lot of overtures, and I was surprised that I thought they were longer. But overtures is, especially from, like, I was listening to a lot of Rodgers and Hammerstein overtures, which are gorgeous, but they're not really long. They're like 3 minutes.
Yeah, just
But
a
they're
little taste.
but their dream ballets were the ones that would have, all of the music and were just lush and gorgeous, and that's what I think we need to bring back.
You should put a dream ballet in your new show.
Currently I have a filler. I have a spot for one.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Mitch is an incredible composer. He's very modest, but he's amazing. And look out, New York. That's all I have to
Watch
say.
out. Watch out. I'm in the city
Watch your
now. Watch your step.
Here comes Mitch.
I'm here. So,
All right. Should
but
we talk about German? Should we hit on German a little bit?
yeah, let's just brush on German. We're not going to talk very much. Really don't have much to say on German. Not because it's not important, but because we are going to talk a lot about some German opera composers later. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
Such
So
as Mozart, Wagner.
Mozart, Wagner, Weber.
Ever heard of him?
Ever heard of them? Yeah. So the first thing that we know about Germans and their composers are they're super emo. They are known for writing.
Where are you?
They're known for writing
Get a
just
little
these
vocal stem.
really dark, dramatic stories. Like if you think of Mozart, one of his most famous ones is Don Giovanni, and that is like such a dark show, such a dark opera. I mean, it's this
I
guy
should
who
know the story, but don't remember.
it's essentially this
Embarrassingly.
guy that just beds a bunch of women, and the show ends with him being dragged
Sure.
back down to hell.
Well,
So, you know,
kind
he
of a
gets
happy ending.
he gets what's coming to
Just
him,
kidding.
but it's also just so dark. There, so yeah, so darker subject matter, but also the characters become a little bit more complex. I think that's something that the German composers and librettists are known for, is kind of like that complexity with some of their characters that we don't see as much in, especially the early Italian opera. They also develop this writing style song called Singspiel.
Singspiel?
Mm-hmm. It
What is that?
It's a genre which features spoken dialogue interspersed with music and the more dramatic grand opera. So they used larger, more lush orchestras. This was another thing that the German opera did a lot, and it really put a large focus on those dramatic elements and storytelling, which becomes important to, well, theater.
Musical theater.
Exactly.
Nice.
So, yeah. So those are the main tent poles for German style.
Right. So, you know what time it is.
It's our favorite time of the
What?
pod.
Oh. Do you want to say it?
Wed, bed, behead.
Yes, indeed. All right. So, Mitch.
No, you're gonna ask me.
Oh,
Do you
I
have
thought
other
we
ones?
asked each other.
We ask each other, but do you have your own?
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
think of random. I was gonna think of my own. For
Oh,
you.
okay. Then I'm gonna ask you these ones that I have
Okay.
written. Wed, bed, behead. It's gonna be really basic. We talked about 3 opera styles, so your 3 options are French opera, Italian opera, German opera.
Okay. I think I'm gonna kill French opera. I don't feel super attached to it.
That's fair.
I'm gonna marry German opera because the first aria I ever sang was German in 7th grade. Seligkeit. And I'm also German. So there's that. And then I'm gonna bed Italian opera because
It's very
sexy.
romantic. Yeah.
It's romantic. Also, like, work Barbara Strozzi, not to be confused with Barbara Streisand, for being a woman composer running around the streets of Venice. That's pretty epic.
Yeah, I will say you did talk a lot about how French opera was Phantom of the Opera, and then you did just kill it.
Yeah.
Would you like to change your answer?
That's true, but I'm sticking with my answer.
Okay.
Because I love Phantom of the Opera. I do, but I can't kill either of the other ones. Wed, bed, behead. Our dear friend Barbara. Opera buffa.
Okay.
And Don Giovanni.
Oh gosh. Well, I think it's very easy to say Behead Don Giovanni.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that.
Behead our man Don Giovanni. And I don't think I could get Strozzi to marry me. So I think the best I would be able to do with her is bed.
Sure.
And
she seems like a free kind of gal.
She just feels like she wouldn't be interested. She would be like, no, I'm not interested. Thanks, okay. But no. And then I guess that leaves Wed opera buffa, which I love. I mean, I love a good little comedic moment. Like, I would be happy to, marry for a laugh.
For joy. For the bit. Till death do us part.
Till death do us part. Just me and opera buffa.
That makes sense for you, though, because you are a very comedic composer.
A comedic composer.
I would say
You
so.
think? Would you say my music is funny? You don't think I'm
I
serious?
would say
You don't think
write
my music
funny
is
music.
serious? You don't
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
correct.
good? You think it's funny when you listen to it? You're like, wow, that music is so funny.
Yeah, I'm laughing in ridicule at
Wow.
your music. No, because you have a lot of funny lyrics, and you write. I feel like you write comedy more than you write serious things.
I do. Historically, I think once I left high school, I left my emo writing in high school, and I was like, yeah, it's okay if we don't go back to that.
It'll be back someday. I know it will.
I don't know. I love a good ha ha. You know, like make them laugh, draw them in with the humor, and then make them think, make them cry. You know,
Ha ha.
no one like. There's nothing worse than a character that has made you laugh till it hurts, and then seeing them die in front of you. Like, oh, that's so good. Like it's like the best feeling, like from like a composer, like writer standpoint, when it's like, wow, they fell in love with them so immediately because they could make them laugh, and I'm about to kill them off. You know?
Yeah, I think at that point, like, it's not even just comedy. It's like that's just like dynamic writing.
Yeah, but I'm also like, but more than just like an interesting person, I'm like, no, they're funny. Like it's gonna be funny. Like we're gonna make it
Yeah.
ridiculous and stupid, but also give it some heart, you know?
Ha ha.
Ha ha. Ha
I
ha.
like that
Wah.
motto.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Wah.
Ha ha. Wah.
That's good.
Is good. Would you like to close this out?
Yeah. All right, everyone. This concludes our episode of Mostly True. Thank you so much for joining us. We are your hosts, Mitch Beard and Laney Gold.
And
Sorry,
Laney.
I should let you say your own name.
No, you should have said your and Laney Gold.
And we are your hosts, Mitch Beard and
Laney Gold.
There we go. We got there. And as always, you can find all of our research sources linked in our website. If this is your first time tuning in, be sure to check out our other episodes and join us next week as we continue diving into the Baroque era. Mitch, would you like to say it for me?
If it ain't Baroque,
don't fix it. Yay. I'm proud of you. All right. Bye.
Bye.